Okay, welcome once again to Teacher Ivan. Here we are on the Study Now channel. I want to focus on these research questions today. I want to welcome everyone who has been following and all those who have subscribed. I continually tell all of us to subscribe because it is wonderful. If we do so, we shall get these notifications and always follow up. After discussing the objectives, we now move to the research questions, but let me just remind us of the journey. We are doing chapter 1 so far. Out of the 6 chapters we have to do, maybe some other parts of the chapters have been touched a little bit, like the references. But what we've done already is the topic. As you can observe, we have done the topic, we have done the background, we have done the statement of the problem, we have seen the general and specific objectives, which means we're now moving to the research questions, the scope of the study, the purpose of the study, and the definition of key terms. That will be ending our chapter 1. Of course, you may see other people having many other parts of chapter 1, but you see, according to the syllabus of GP, I always don't want to go bigger than what it talks about. I've just gone a little deeper, so I don't want to go more deeper than even what it talks about. After me discussing all these remaining 4, I'm going to bring a video that shows us how to organize our first page, how to organize those details, typing, what comes after what, and then even creating the table of contents. It will be the video after these 4 discussed. So what are research questions? These are specific questions that your project seeks to answer, and they are directly developed from the objectives, not from the topic this time, but from the objectives. Because each specific objective will become one research question. That's a key thing. And these questions, they are so important that they will guide you to collect data. Because as I said earlier, that specific objectives are so focused on the problem even more than the title. Because for them, they have gone a little mile deeper than just the normal topic that you had. So they're going to help you develop good questionnaires and interviews to ask the people and then collect data to keep your project focused, as well as helping you analyze your findings clearly, because you'll be specific and a narrow scope. And it will make it easier for the examiner to understand what you studied. That is, as long as your questions are so clear, are so outlined, are so pointed on a specific objective, so they can do all that function. How do we therefore develop the research questions? We shall look at the specific objectives and turn each of them into a question. And how does it start? We start the questions with a what, maybe to what extent, maybe how, maybe what is the relationship. And of course, make sure the third question includes challenges and solutions. If you consider a topic called, someone had a topic about digital devices, this person should have had such objectives to determine the ways students use digital devices during ICT lessons. The other objective was to examine the effect of the non-academic use of digital devices on students' focus, and then to analyze challenges and propose solutions of the digital devices on the students' focus. So that is the other side, which is incomplete. So we can develop questions from this. For example, the first one can bring a question. What are the common ways? Because they're asking to determine the ways, so here I'm asking, what are the common ways students use digital devices during ICT lessons? You see that? The second, they say here to examine the effects. So here I come and I say, to what extent does the use of digital devices for non-academic purposes affect? Because they're asking to examine effects of non-academic use of devices. Effect of the non-academic use of devices on student focus. So I'm checking to what extent, because it's not always that all bad. Like, to what extent does the use of digital devices for non-academic purposes affect? Because this was the dependent variable, student concentration during what? Lessons. You observe that? The other one was, what challenges do teachers face because you said analyze the what? The challenges. That was the third objective of this person. So to what challenges do teachers and students face in managing digital devices used during ICT lessons, and what practical solutions can be proposed? So you can see I've asked for the challenges, which was part of this one's objective, and you asked for solutions, which was part of this one's objectives there. Example, here it says 3. No. Let it not say 3, because this is our example number 2. So it being example number 2 shall take us to observing here that if our objectives are those 3, to determine mosquito bite prevention practices used by households, to examine relationship between prevention practices and malaria cases, to analyze challenges and propose solutions. Our first question will look like this. Here we are saying to determine mosquito bite prevention practices. So we're asking, what are those mosquito bite prevention practices that are common in our households in selected area? So that to examine relationship between the prevention practices and malaria cases. So asking ourselves, is there an extent to which these prevention practices are influencing the prevalence of malaria? So this is the let me get this pointer here. This is the independent variable influence on the dependent variable. So we move on to what challenges do the households face in preventing mosquito bites? Because you're saying to analyze challenges and propose solutions and whatever that was ending this objective. So what challenges do households face in prevention of mosquito bites, and what practical solutions can be proposed? Okay, now before I go that side, I wanted to check something out for you. I wanted to go to some objectives, so I'm going to go a little back. Let me just go a little bit back here to check on some objectives so that we can also talk about it, and then people get to know what to do there. Allow me a little bit. Okay, let's consider this. We had this objective of parental level of education. The specific was to determine the years of schooling completed by parents and how it relates to household standards of living. So if I'm developing a question from here, I think I'll say how many years of schooling were completed by the parents. You see, were completed by the parents in selected households. So I then have to collect such data, how many years of schooling these guys really complete. Then to examine the highest qualification attained by parents and its influence on household standards. So I'm going to check maybe to which extent, maybe what is the influence of the highest qualification. I think we'll have to ask myself, what is the effect of high qualification attained by parents to the household standards of living in selected households? If the third one is here, let me get the third one here. The third one here is to analyze the type of education, formal or non-formal, received by parents and how it affects the overall household standards. So that would mean that I ask myself, so the objective says here to analyze the type of education, formal or non-formal. So what type of education was received by the parents, and then I'm asking how it affects. So I have there another question there. I have to join up another part of the question, because I'm asking, I'm analyzing to what extent is the type of education received by the parent affecting the overall household standards of living, and what are the possible recommendations for improvements. That means I'm combining what was in this into one question, which is a little wide. Analyzed the type of education received by parents and how it affects overall household standards of living. So I ask myself, to what extent is the type of education received by parents able to affect the overall household standards of living? So that's how I organize my work there. So this will take me to closing this and hence moving back to where I was, I think around here. So what are the do's if we are writing our research questions? We are saying that please focus so much to writing 3 research questions, but I'm also proposing, like in the previous example, you observe that even the last objective had another point than the challenges. So you can always, in such a case, I suggest you can always write the first 3 questions which are so focused on the objective, then we have the third one focused on the challenges and the proposed solutions. That is, if for you your third objective was not entirely challenges. To avoid bulking the third question, we can always write the 4 questions, because the first 3 would be looking at just the objectives, and then the fourth one will add in the challenges, like what are the challenges and how can we solve them based on that study. We have to make them clear and actually linked to your objectives. Use the question words like what, how, to what extent. Yes. Make the last question about challenges and solutions. So that's why I'm saying that if you had 3 objectives and these were all not having any part about challenges and solutions, all the last one had a certain objective and then was also looking at the solutions and challenges, break the last one into 2 questions, one focusing just on the objective and the other fourth one talking about the challenges and solutions, as in the first 2 examples. What are the do's and the don'ts? The don'ts are very clear. Don't write more than 3, but I've told you where to write the 4. Don't make them too broad. Don't use yes or no. Yes or no questions. Like when guys just say yes. Don't use such questions. Where I said no. Those are not the questions we need. Let me end with a short story. So there was a young hunter named Kato who wanted to catch a clever antelope. Instead of running everywhere in the forest, he asked himself 3 questions, very clear questions. Where does this antelope usually drink water from? And what time of the day does it come there? So what can I do to catch it without harming the forest? So these questions are the right questions, and he was able to set his trap in the perfect place and he was able to succeed. So your research questions are like Kato's questions. If they are clear and focused, they will guide you to the right data, just like Kato found the right spot. As ask for the right questions and your project is going to proceed. Wow, that really takes us to the end, and in the next time we're going to work together. What is this? Thanks for watching. Now go ahead and write your 3 research questions based on your specific objectives, because our next time we're going to focus on this guy called the scoop. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Share to many people to get this good information. Have a nice time.